issue. As I think about it a lot, I got elected to Congress, and I got put on the Foreign Affairs Committee. I was the youngest member of Congress. I was 27 years old, and one of the first hearings the Foreign Affairs Committee was having was going to be on the Iranian hostage crisis, which had just come to an end a month earlier. This is now February 81. Hostages came home in January. This is February, and I'm sitting there at 10 a.m. in my seat in the front row of that two-decked hearing room. The senior members of Congress are in the higher back row, and the younger ones are in the front row. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there waiting, and I overhear two senior Republican congressmen behind me. One of them was a guy named Tennyson Geyer from Ohio. And one of them says to the other one, "That was some briefing we had on the prisoners in Laos last night in the Pentagon." And the other guy says something, and I listen for a minute, and I stand up, turn around, and say, "Excuse me, can I have that briefing?" And they chuckled. They said, "Son, you are a member of Congress. You can have anything you want. Just call the Pentagon up, and they'll take you over there." So another freshman congressman and I, Billy Hendon from North Carolina, we called up. We got the briefing set up. We went over there and had about an hour and a half given by an Admiral Kennedy. His name is Admiral Kennedy, and two or three other personnel. And if you or your listeners had the same hour and a half briefing that we had, you'd be just as onto this as I have been, because they made it very clear. There were hundreds of POWs still being held right then. They showed us aerial photographs beginning 3 months earlier of a camp being built in a place in Laos called Namarath, where the first picture, which was like it was like December 1980, what you saw was all jungle. Then a month later, cleared out of the jungle were roads and a clearing. And then about 2 weeks later, structures were being built and fences had been put up. And then 1 month later, right when we were doing the briefing, they had the camp was activated, and they even played us radio intercepts of the Lao military saying, "We are moving the American prisoners south." It was right in the transcript of the radio intercept.
Right.
So there was no doubt what this was going on. This was a camp of American prisoners being held there. And Hendon and I walked out of that briefing stunned and determined that we were going to get onto this thing. And we are still on it 33 years later.